And that's it. We should be good to go. So let me just start by thanking you so much for joining us this morning. I don't normally, in fact, let me just say that over again. When we first connected, before we had our first call, I just immediately assumed it was going to be pitchy and like 5 minutes and yeah, good to know you. You know, I always like to make sure that I know people that are out there, even if I can't make use of someone might be able to. But I was totally pleasantly surprised by how awesome you are as a human and what a clear business strategy you have. And it was just such a fun conversation.
Agreed.
And I was just like, David's my new business bestie. And have to get you introduced. So I heard that you connected with Carolina and are now part of PWB Plus, which is amazing. It's such a good group, and we're so lucky to have you in there.
Thank you for inviting me in. I really appreciate it.
So with all of that introduction, I just want to start by giving you the floor to introduce yourself and your business, and then we'll chat a little bit.
All right, sounds good. Well, again, thank you for the honor, Ian. Truly, I really appreciate it. And a little bit about myself. I always start with my story. The short version of the story is that I come from an African household, very strict household. We were given 4 options: lawyer, doctor, engineer, accountant. That's all that was respected. And so I was going to be the engineer. My younger brother was going to be the doctor. And I disobeyed and went off the path, and I got into digital media. I was using what I'm sure some of the people watching will know, MySpace. Some of the newer people won't know about MySpace, but MySpace was what I was using, and Facebook, I was using it to market for fun. And then that led from me leaving California to come to the East Coast, worked for a company called TerraCycle. And then from there, left TerraCycle to launch Kingdom Social Media. And we do digital marketing for influential leaders. So speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants, experts, people that are amazing at what they do. We help them to magnify their amazing through LinkedIn marketing, Facebook advertising, and also with course development.
Awesome. See, I'm so old, I remember Friendster.
Oh, wow. Friendster. I didn't jump on Friendster quite yet. It was just one phase beyond me, but I remember it being there. Yes.
Yeah, it was a good one, much like Betamax got beat out by VHS, not because of quality, but just because of adoption.
Yeah.
I think that's the way that Friendster went. I don't even remember why it was amazing, but I remember liking it. Maybe it was just, who knows? All right. Yeah. So tell me a little bit, because I think there's, in both of our spaces, right? Mm-hmm. It can be a little bit crowded, like, another marketer. But again, I just want to caution anyone listening and watching, like, that was my initial first reaction. And I was so proven wrong, because I think you really are special and unique. So tell us a little bit about favorite clients to work with, and maybe a recent situation of a particular client story that you can share.
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few. So there's 2 sides, right? So I'm a digital marketer and digital marketing agency, but then we also have a coaching side where we coach entrepreneurs. So I'll start with some of the clients that we coach through the process. So we have a program called Premium Online Programs, helping people to take their ideas, taking their expertise and turning it into essentially a coaching program. And we had a lady come to us who I talk about this story when I do presentation. I talk about the high-rise story. The high-rise story is essentially, the short version of that is when this person said, hey, I'm not going to buy an office space in this high-rise, true story. I'm not going to buy it in this nice high-rise. I'm going to save some money and put myself in a lower cost environment so I can, save some money. Then what ends up happening is she's consulted by a friend, and a friend tells her, no, you need to put yourself in the high-rise situation, because you never know what can come out of it. So she listens, she puts herself into the high-rise, and she meets clientele that have blown her mind away. And she is doing way more in business, way more in revenue, and is succeeding successfully successful and profitable in that story. So I share that story, and then one of the clients that we have the coaching program called Kalina, I know she wouldn't mind me sharing this. She came to our webinar. After the webinar, she learned about what we offer, and she was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to make a way to make an investment into this program. And she did. And she went to the program. She made her investment back multiple times over. And the beautiful thing about it is she saw herself in the high rise story. She said, I was that lady who didn't want to do this. I'd rather do something else because I don't know if I have the funds. I don't know if I have the resources. And then she did that, and it opened up a whole nother door of clientele that's in the premium markets and things of that nature. So that's what we do on one side. Sorry, I just dropped my planner. That's what we do on one side. That's for me personally, I enjoy coaching, training, teaching. That's my sweet spot for me. But then there's the other side, and the agency side. I'll pause there. I know I went a little long-winded on
not
on
at all.
side.
It's great stuff. I think it's so important. And I often forget, this is a good reminder for me of, when is the money spent an investment versus when is it an expense? And it's always around that expected return on investment, and I think it does make sense. So many people we've heard, you're some of the 5 people around you. So make sure you're really surrounded by people who are, valuing the same things that you are. So they're not pulling you in a different direction.
Right.
And I think I often not tell that high rise story, but experience that high rise story as, yes, you should be being really careful with your money. And it is true that if you're surrounding yourself with not the quality that you want to be selling to, that can make a difference.
Right.
And so the question that I love, that I really connected to there was, I don't know if I can afford this, rather than I know that I can't. Because if you're not sure, there's a way to figure out whether you can or not. And if you can't now, what are the things that you can do so that you can?
Wow, that's good. That's good. I love that.
Which usually comes back to marketing.
That's right.
And knowing what and how to market. So let's talk about the agency piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the agency side, there's a couple of things. I'll start with one of our clients. His name is Ken. And so in my work, I find that I think our difference as first as an agency, because like you said, there's a lot of marketing agencies out there, is our core difference comes from an acronym and a word called CARE. We really model that. We look for that in every team member. That's a really important value to us. So CARE, and CARE stands for collaborative, accountable, responsive, and empathetic. And so those are the qualities we look for when we bring anybody on a team. So with that, it kind of seeps into everything we do. And so we have a client on the agency side, which we were doing a series of webinars for. And Ken is an amazing, he used to own a couple of McDonald's franchises, and he's really understanding very well. And he had this program where he was kind of pouring, his knowledge into helping other people, and he was charging. And again, I don't think that there's a problem in charging low prices, but I've also learned that sometimes if you don't charge a high enough price, your customer doesn't take it serious. Your students or your customers don't take it serious enough. So he was charging $99 a month, and he initially approached us to help him fill that offer. And I said, you know what, Ken, we're going to need to scratch your whole offer. We need to go and revamp this, and we need to turn it into a training where you show people that were in the situation that you were in, that are in corporate America, that want to leave and want to start into business, but they don't want to make the crazy leap and start their own business, but they want a system and some guidance, and franchising might be the opportunity. So we took his whole model. We helped him to restructure what he's going to do to help these people. And then we created a webinar process that kind of highlighted essentially what are the mindsets you need to have to be able to do something like this and leave corporate and or leave or stay with corporate and veer into the business realm. So the webinars went really well. We helped him sell his offer for $3,000 instead of $99 a month for I think it was like 6 months. And he had I think it was around 14 to 15,000 on the first webinar in sales. And it was just a eye-opening experience for him. Like, wow, people were really wanting this value that I have. He kind of didn't, even though he's really good at what he did, he just didn't believe in his own value in a sense. And so that's why I say care kind of seeps into what we do, because we see what someone's potential is, and we see, hey, how you can take it higher to another level. And so we have quite a few stories like that. But that's what I'd say on the. So we helped him market it. We ran the Facebook ads, ran the webinars, we ran the emails. We have a service called White Glove Webinars. So we just handled the whole process for him.
That was going to be my question was, when you marketed it, what does that mean? Which you just outlined for us. And so for someone who does want to market a webinar or potentially a series of webinars, what is the mistake that you see people make most often? And what for a similar result, someone aiming for, let's just say 15,000 in results, what should they be prepared to spend total, both on ad spend and on the consultant, just to give people sort of a ballpark? I know that there's some tweaks in there that you can adjust, but. Absolutely.
So great question. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see is, so I'll start with, there's two of them, but the first one is when you're doing a webinar, the goal is not to, as this crazy as it sounds, it's not to teach. It's to explain through stories and break limiting beliefs. So I'm a natural teacher. That's what I like to do. And that's what I did for years and messed up a whole lot of opportunities, because when you teach it, what will happen is sometimes you're doing webinars. Most people do free webinars. People are thinking, oh, I got all the information. I don't need anything else. And the truth is you're actually hurting people, because there's way more. You can't teach everything in an hour or an hour and a half, or maybe even 2 hours. So that's the first mistake, is teaching instead of, and what we like to do with webinars is we take from the quote from Les Brown, motivational speaker, who says, never tell a story without never tell a principle without a story. So you teach through story of instances of, and so like an example I shared earlier, High-Rise. The High-Rise story was shared in our webinar. You share with story instead of teaching. Not that you're trying to hold people back, you're actually trying to help them more, but by doing this. So you share the principle in the story, and then that's the first mistake that a lot of people made and that I made. Then the second mistake is understanding that as you do webinars, sometimes people feel like I gotta have this webinar and then another webinar and another, like they do like 5, 10 different webinars. No, the key is to do one webinar and one webinar only. Make that the best webinar you can. Great content, great story, great processes, and all the systems tied behind it, and repeat that over and over and over again. It's not about doing 12. I like what Bruce Lee says. I fear not the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. So mastery. So that's the other big mistake I see people make from a webinar standpoint. And then as far as going into your second question around investment of what it takes. So for somebody to make about $15,000 revenue, we typically ask at a minimum for them to have an offer that's around $1,500. So whether it's a service, or it's a monthly recurring, whether it's a one-time course. So we start there. So if the offer is under $1,500, we'll either say, hey, can we help you increase it and add more value to it? If the offer, they say, no, we can't. We don't even take on the client or the project, because we would need to do so much volume to get to that level, and it's going to be quite costly from a cost ads perspective. So perspective, how we look at it is we look at, okay, how many people do we need to get on the webinar? So typically for about $1,000. So in Ken's case, we spend $1,000 in ad spend to get that. And then our consulting fee is $3,000 for setup, and then $3,000 a month. So we spend 3 plus 3. That's one time setup. So 3, 3, 6, 7. So about 7,000. And then that first month he had made 15. So then it if you get better as you go. So it increases as you go. So that's what I would say from an investment standpoint. But back to the numbers. So we look for around 80 to, without $1,000 would get you about 80 to anywhere from 80 to 100 registrants. From the 80 to 100 registrants, you should have about 50 people to show up, right? 40 to 50 to people show up. And obviously we can go higher. It's better to go higher. You want to get, if you get 200 people or you get 100. So just count on half of them not showing up. And then from there, in our model, the way we teach it, we have people book appointments on the call. We don't sell on the call, because anything over $1,000, you need a conversation, right? That's a pretty big expense for most people. So we don't sell on the webinar. We just explain the value, get them to a call. So from that, you can typically get, if by the end there's, let's just say there's 30, 40 people, probably have about 10 to 15 calls. From 10 to 15 calls, you do the math there. If your closing rate, Ken had a higher closing rate, so he closed 50%, 40 to 50%. So if you have 10 to 15 calls, you close 40 to 15%, 40 to 50%. It just becomes mathematics, and rinse and repeat, and do it all over and over again. Yeah.
Awesome. I had some question. Oh, yes, yeah. I wrote it down. When you repeat a webinar, what do you think is sort of the optimal time frame? Do you think monthly is good? Every other month? Does it depend on what the webinar is?
Good question. So I like to look at minimums. So I think a minimum is once a month. Once a month is really good. I do see that some people do once every week. That can be okay, but you really got to have a good ad budget there to re-enroll every month if it's live. Re-enroll every week if it's live. So I like once a month at a minimum. Twice a month is optimal to me. If you can do every 2 weeks, because 2 weeks gives enough time for people to plan, schedule on their calendars, do the promo, do all the things that are needed behind it. So I think the optimal is 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, running a webinar. And then we haven't even talked about automating, because then you could add in, automated sequences too, and do automated webinars.
Yeah, and that was actually going to the other question that I forgot, which is why I always write things down.
Yeah, me too.
Was Ken was doing his own sales calls? Is that right, or did he have a sales team? Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just feel like I could ask you questions for the next 3 hours. So every 2 weeks makes sense. What was the other question that I didn't write down? Evergreen, you just started to touch on that. Do you see a big difference? Let me just start here. I've heard that you should always start live so that you can kind of see what works. And then once you feel like, yep, this is, good conversion rates, et cetera, that's when you can sort of take it to evergreen. Is that your opinion as well?
Yes, you're spot on. Absolutely. Yeah, I would never start from the gate with an automated webinar. We've seen, for me personally, probably did 50 before I even started my automated sequences. And I've been testing a lot of different platform software, and just know there's nothing that beats live, right? You can't, personally, I think automated will never beat live. It's just the way it is, but you can get decent results with automated as well, which if you compound it, it saves your time, which over time, it does beat live, but what I mean is it won't beat it directly. It will beat it indirectly. And so I've been experiencing, and I'll share this cool nugget. This is something I'm always trying to improve and learn my craft and get better as develop to the best level that I can. I just joined an exclusive group to learn an automated process through another different software called Webinar Fuel. Webinar Fuel is so if anybody follows, maybe you follow Russell Brunson or from ClickFunnels and some of these. So Russell Brunson just had the founder, I think is Anthony Morrison, come and share about this software. And Russell Brunson is really great at webinars. We apply some of our principles and things that we've learned from him. And what's interesting is he said, this is the best automated webinar software I've used ever. And he rolled it out to his inner circle and they all found great success. And so now I believe it's jumping in early. That software plus the combined training is going to take over as far as one of the best solutions for automated webinars. So we're trying to be ahead of the game and really master this system and help our clients to leverage it too. So that's next for us and next for clients. So kind of give a nugget there if everybody wants to pick it up and utilize it. Webinar Fuel.
There's a newer software that's sort of an all-in-one. It's got the CRM and the funnels, et cetera, called She's in Business. They're just starting out.
Okay.
I'm going to email you that separately because when you've got time to take on yet another project, I'd love to have your expert opinion on that because it looks, from my point of view, it looks great, but I am so not an expert in any of that stuff. Okay. Cool. So the last question that I always say last question, then I have another one. The question I'm going to ask you next, which may be our last question, is what do you think has really changed? I know that, the online world is so fast and things that worked really well in marketing 6 months ago may not be. So what do you think is sort of the cutting edge of marketing techniques these days, or something that used to really work and is not working so much anymore?
Yeah. The first thing that really comes to mind is organic. Organic is just not working like it used to. You can leverage it. I'm not saying you're not going to see result from it. But organic, when I'm, posting just regularly, I think, but see, here's the paradox. You've got to do it. You still have to do it, but it's not as effective because more of the platform's usage, more of the things that the algorithm can show you at any time. So it's really hard, but then if you don't have a presence, then nobody's going to trust you. So it's one of those things that is not really working really well. But what I really believe is working more and more, and it always has, is personalization. Personalization in your messaging, if you do connect with people, personalization across your emails, leveraging that person's name and email, segmenting your audiences really well so that you're speaking to their pain points. If they came to your list, I know you're in Profit First. So if they came to your list and be like, I don't know about what is Profit First? So them getting information that's really driving the force of, this is what Profit First is, and this is what it can do and how it can change your business if you allow it. And then if there's a more advanced person that knows that Profit First, well, did you know that Profit First systems, as you do this, is your cash flow is going to grow and you're going to be able to do this, spend more money on. So that person that's more advanced is going to receive more content tailored to their level. And the person that's more of a beginner is going to receive content tailored to their level. So personalization across the board is really where things are going. And the better you can personalize, make it, I listen to Spotify, maybe you use Spotify as well, right? And it's like miraculous to know, like, hey, this new album just came out. We know you like this. I'm like, yeah, I do. Or this we listened, we've been analyzed all the tracks you've been listening for the year. We've compiled a list of people that you should check out, or these are some recommended artists. Like that level of personalization, you appreciate it. Yeah, it's a little stalkerish, but but you appreciate it. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that we are going to continue to have many conversations in the future. I'm so thankful that I met you.
Me too, Ian.
Anything you want to leave us with? Places to find you, how to get in touch?
Oh, yes. Kingdomsocialmedia.com. We're doing a revamp there. So, but that's a good place. If someone's interested in learning more about our webinars, we have a page, whiteglovewebinars.co. Whiteglovewebinars.co. Yep.
Beautiful.
And on all social media, Kingdom Social Media or David D. Simons on all social media.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Likewise, Ian. Thank you.
Right. See if I can stop the recording. We're still on streaming. I'll see if I can turn that off. Or I think I just have to end the meeting. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.